This is Political Psychology, and I'm your professor, Dr. Patrick Stewart. In this lesson, we will continue analyzing how biology and media technology interact in the political arena. Because the connection between politicians and their followers is mediated through camera shots, we consider how production decisions regarding the time given candidates and the types of camera shots they receive affect how they are perceived by the general public. One of the more established findings regarding social mammals, such as humans, is that the most reliable and valid signal that someone is a group leader is that everyone else is paying attention to them. In other words, the more people that pay attention to an individual, the more likely that that individual influences that group. In short, the watched individual is the followed individual. Eye tracking research shows that in small groups, this is most definitely the case, especially as humans evolve to live and work in small groups. In such small groupings, with implications for survival, followers decided who the leaders would be on a case-by-case basis depending on what was required and who had the most skills for that job. Television now functions as eyes for us. In this mediated environment where the camera looks is where we look. Not only that, it informs us of how long we look. In other words, the total time we spend viewing someone, as long as how we look each time we look at that individual, tells us how important that someone is. That is why on reality shows, the reality TV stars try to develop compelling stories and drama around them to develop parasocial interactions. As a result, many of us have parasocial relationships with characters that we have not met face to face. These relationships might be fictional, or in the case of reality television and politics, they can be highly curated. In which case, we see only what the individuals and producers want us to see. That said, research suggests that mere exposure to an individual, and in politics, the candidates, makes viewers more likely to like someone and to support them, especially if connections between the viewer and the individual represented in the media are already seen as existing. This affects politics incredibly much so in our media-dominated age. Because the United States has a Westminster first-past-the-post system of voting, in which case the candidate winning 50% plus one vote tends to be the winner of the race, we have a two-party political system. As a result, the political parties have incredible power in structuring who gets on the ballot, who gets heard, and as a result, who has the potential to be elected and to make public policy. While, as you can see, the number of debates has increased, as have the amounts of candidates from each party, the major increase in candidates on the debate stage occurred in 2016, with the Republican Party having 17 candidates taking the stage, although not all at the same time. In this case, there's a drive time debate with 7 candidates on stage, and then a prime time debate with 10 candidates on stage. While this did not last long, with many candidates dropping out eventually, it set a precedent for the 2020 Democratic Party debates, with 20 candidates split over 2 nights. The question is, why? The why is likely what we expect it to be: media attention. While the year before the primaries and caucuses are held used to be largely about fundraising and obtaining elite endorsements, they have increasingly become about media attention and the benefits that candidates reap from that media attention. As you can see from the data regarding the initial 2 debates for both parties in 2016 and 2020, millions of eyes are on the candidates. Even if they do not win the nomination, these candidates stand to benefit in multiple ways. The first, most obvious way, is that they become politically viable with a nationwide audience that largely sees their performance. The second, less obvious benefit is that many of the candidates are able to develop careers outside of electoral politics. Namely, many candidates end up on the networks that they initially debated on, except this time as commentators. Perhaps the best example of this is Arkansas's own Mike Huckabee. In 2008, he came very close with a series of high-quality debate performances and on-the-ground connections with Americans as he campaigned in classic retail style. While he did not win the nomination, ultimately losing out to John McCain, Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee had a self-titled show on Fox News from 2008 to 2015 and has had a show on Trinity Broadcasting Network from 2017 to present day. Like the primary debates, if not more so, the presidential general election debates are highly anticipated and much watched affairs, drawing more viewers than the annual Academy Awards in 2016. Certainly, many Americans had stakes in parasocial relationships with Donald Trump, star of TV's reality show The Apprentice and Celebrity Apprentice, as well as with Hillary Clinton, who has had a national profile since the early 1990s when her husband, Bill Clinton, won the presidency. That so many viewers tuned in suggests that politics has become intermeshed with entertainment, with not only powerful public policies at stakes, but immense amounts of money for the networks who rely upon partisan discord to fuel their ratings. One further question is, does performance and media priming matter if there are too many candidates on stage, and if one of the candidates already has a parasocial relationship with potential voters? In 2003, Arnold Schwarzenegger ran for and won the governorship of California, despite not having any real political experience. Because he was already a media celebrity, he did not have to face the level of scrutiny that the other candidates faced. He received a good deal of free media thanks to easy stories playing off of his movies. Namely, Schwarzenegger himself was referred to as the running man, and ultimately, when he won, the governor. Whereas during the recall election of Gray Davis, which in turn was referred to as Total Recall, by running as a Republican, Schwarzenegger successfully played into the dominant leader ethos preferred by the political party and portrayed by him in his movies. With all the free press he received from reference to his background, Arnold did not show up for most of the gubernatorial debates. These debates, which had 5 candidates debating for 90 minutes after Governor Gray Davis interviewed lasting for 30 minutes, likely were seen as diminishing his stature by his having to share the stage and respond to attacks from the other candidates. In this case, there were diminishing returns on media coverage for Arnold Schwarzenegger.